Welcome back to the Average Choice YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll be learning how to make this basic sleeve with leaf pattern. It's a very simple DIY tutorial and I use scuba fabric for this project. If this is what you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. The measurement you need to take for this leaf is your measurement from your shoulder here to your full length, which is around the wrist area, which in this case is 22 inches for me. So I have the measurement from the shoulder to wrist to be 22 inches, and then you need your measurement from the shoulder to the elbow area to where you want this leaf pattern attachment to start. So you can be on your elbow exactly or just a little above the elbow. So for me, I want it just a little above the elbow, and that's going to be around 12 inches for me. So I'll make that 12 inches, shoulder to elbow. So now the leaf attachment, to know the longest part of the leaf, remember it's in 3 layers. Okay, so we need the measurement for the longest one. So the longest one is going to be the measurement from your shoulder to wrist minus shoulder to elbow, which is 22 minus 12, which in this case is going to be 10 inches. So the longest part of the petal sleeve is going to be 10 inches long. So now I'm going to be using this shoulder to elbow measurement, which is 12 inches, to draft a basic sleeve, and I'm using a scuba fabric for this. So now I have my basic sleeve drafted like this, and I already have a tutorial on how to draft a basic sleeve on the channel if you don't know how to. So now quickly we'll move over to drafting the petal. Okay, so now I have like a table here so that you can understand this better. So like I said, the leaves is going to be in 3 lengths. This is the first one, this is the second one, this is the third one, which is the long, the medium, and the shortest one. So for the longest one, we already calculated it to be 10 inches. Now to determine the medium and the short one, you need to determine the difference you want for each of the sleeves. So for me now, I just want a 2.5 inches or 2 inches difference from each of my sleeve. So for a 2.5 inches difference, you just need to subtract 10 inches from, you subtract 2.5 inches from your 10 inches, and that is going to give me 7.5 inches for the medium. Okay, so to know the measurement for the shortest also, you subtract the same 2.5 inches from the 7.5 inches, and that's going to give me 5 inches. Okay, so the longest one is going to be 10 inches long, the medium is going to be 7.5 inches long, and the short is going to be 5 inches long. So if you look at the thumbnail very well, you will notice that for the longest one, we just have two leaves pattern, but very large. So that is where this number comes in. So for the longest one, I'm going to be having 2. For the medium also, I'm going to be having 2 leaves. You can do 3, you can do 4, depending on what style you are looking for and the amount of fabric you have to work with. And for the shortest one, we have 3. Okay, so the shortest one is going to be 3 in number. So we are going to be cutting 2 for the long, 2 for the medium, and 2 for the shortest. So now to know the radius, that is the measurement you need to cut the upper part. That's the part you are going to be attaching to the hem of your elbow. So to know this now, you need to get your round sleeve measurement, which is round the elbow that you are going to be placing it. And for this tutorial, I'll be using a round sleeve of 9 inches. Okay, so now remember we said we are cutting 2. So now to know the measurement for each of it, you are going to be dividing 9. For the first one, you'll be dividing 9 by 2 inches, which is going to give me 4.5 inches. For the second one also, I'll be dividing the 9 inches, that's a round wrist, by 2, and it's going to give me the same 44.5 inches. And for the shortest one, which is 3, I'm going to be dividing by that 9 inches by 3 inches, and that is going to give me 3 inches. So now we have all the measurements we need. The next thing is for us to start drafting it. Okay, so we're cutting the longest one first, which is the length of 10 inches and the radius of 4.5 inches. So I'm going to be putting this on fold. Okay, and then the first measurement I'm going to be taking is the length measurement, which is 10 inches. So from the upper part here, you're going to measure 10 inches, and then I had 1 inch for allowance, for seam allowance for joining it on the upper part. So remember, I'm using a scuba fabric, which is not going to be lined. But if you're going to be adding lining to this, you should take into consideration your necessary allowances. Okay, so this is the length. So the next measurement I need now is the radius measurement, which is 4.5 inches. But remember that I put this paper to unfold. So the 4.5 inches, I will need to divide it by 2 before I take my measurement. So dividing it by 2, I have 2¼ and then I'm going to measure 2¼ here. Then also if you look at the leaf patterns, you will notice that they overlap on each other. So for that overlap, to get enough overlap, I'm going to be adding 1 inch extra to this. So that's going to give me a total of 3¼ So now to form my shape, you can decide to use your free hand now and then curve it to the hem line if that is what you desire. But to make this easier for us, I'm going to be dividing what we have here by 2, and that is going to give me 5½. That's 11 by 2. So on that midpoint here, I'm going to measure the wideness that I want for the sleeve. So for the longest part, I want it to be around 6 inches wide. So that is going to guide me in drawing this curve. So you can use your free hand now, or you use your curve if you have. So now I'm trying to get a smooth curve for that. So I'm going to be curving it from this upper part here all the way to this 6 inches, and then from the 6 inches I'm going to be curving it to the hem line like this. Okay, so once you have that, now you take your scissors and then you cut out that shape. So after cutting out this shape, we move over to cut the second part. So remember, we are still cutting this on a pattern. If you cut it out and you feel what you have here is not okay with you, you can actually decide to correct any error at this stage before you cut it on your fabric. So now I've cut it out, and this is the first shape that I have. So I'm going to be cutting 2 of this. Remember, we said the number that we're going to be using for the longest one is 2. So I will be cutting 2 of this. Now we'll move over to cut the short, the medium. So for the medium also, just like we did for the short one, you take the length. So the length we're working with is 7½ inches. I'm also adding 1 inch to that, so I'll measure 8½ inches for my length, and then I'll make that into a straight line. Then you measure your radius, which is the same, which is 4½ inches, and it's unfold. So I'll be measuring 2¼ then I'll add 1 inch for the overlap. And also I'll divide this, what I have here, I'll note the midpoint, which is here. Then on that midpoint, to determine how wide you want the leaf to be. So for the first one, I use 6 inches, so I'll be reducing this by 1 inch, and then I'll be using 5 inch for this. So now from this upper part, now you connect it to this midpoint, and then from the midpoint you connect it to the hem line like this. So after connecting it, I'll take my scissors now and then cut out this shape. So now we've cut the longest part, we've cut the medium, we are going to be cutting the shortest part now. So here on your pattern, you indicate that this is the medium, and then you cut 2 of this, because the number we wrote for this is also 2. So now to cut the shortest part, we're going to measure, take the length measurement. So the length we're working with is 5 inches, and I'll add 1 inch to that, so I'll make it 6 inches, which is this. Okay, so after making your 6 inches, you make it into a straight line, and then for your radius, remember this time we are cutting 3, so the radius is 3 inches. So divided by 2, because it's unfold, it's going to give me 1½ inches, and then I'll add 1 inch for the overlap. So now I will note the midpoint of this length, which is 3 inches, and then on that midpoint I'll draw a guide. So for the width of this shortest part, I used 5 inches for the medium. I'm going to be reducing it by 1 inch again, and then I'll make this 4 inches. So now from this point, now I'll connect it to this point, and then from here I'll connect it all the way to the hem line. Then after connecting it like that, I'll take my scissors and cut out this pattern. So after cutting out the pattern, I'll open it, and then I'll write the shortest, and I'll note that I'll have to cut 3 of this. So now we have our pattern. This is the shortest one, I'm cutting 3. This is the medium, I'm cutting 2, and this is the longest, I'm cutting 3. So now I'm cutting 2 for the longest. So now I'll take it to my fabric now and cut them and bring it back to show. Okay, so we have this now, but looking at it, I think it's a bit wide, so I'll prefer it to be narrower. So now I'm just going to test the pattern. Instead of using 6 inches for this, I'll use 5 inches for the longest part, and then I'll connect it to see what the outcome is going to look like. Okay, so you can see the way I'm connecting it. So likewise for the other ones also, I'm going to be reducing it. The one I used 5 inches for, I'll use 4 inches, and for the one I used 4 inches, I'm going to use 3 inches. So now I'm cutting this out now. My radius remains the same, please note, and then you can see what I have now. It's a bit narrower as against what we have here, which is really wide. So for the second one also, I'll reduce it on this point by an inch. So that's 4 inches, and then from here I'm going to be connecting it to this point and then all the way to the M line. So I'll do the same for the third one also. So if you are okay with the first pattern, you can maintain it, but if you want it now, in fact you can even make it narrower than what we have here. It all depends on your preference. So this is the second one now, and as you can see, it's not as wide as it is earlier. Okay, so I'm going to cut it on my fabric now. This is the medium, this is the long, and this is the short. So I'll detach it now so that we can arrange it. Okay, so we have 2 for the long, 2 for the medium, and 3 for the short. So first thing I'm going to be doing now, you can leave it like this, but for me to create a band, a little bit of bands to create that full effect, I'm just going to be pinching it at the midpoint here now, and then I'll create a pleat. So you can see what this pleat is giving it like this. So you can add the allowance of that into your allowance if you did not add it earlier. So you can see what I have now. So I'll take it to the sewing machine now and then create pleats for all of them like this. I'll create pleats for it, but before I go, let me just show us how I'm going to be arranging it. So the first one and the second one has the same radius, so I'm just going to be placing them on top of each other like this. So first one and second one, for the second one also, I'll place it on top of each other. And remember that we added 1 inch overlap allowance, so I'm going to be placing it by the 1 inch overlap allowance, and it's going to overlap on each other. So you can see how it is overlapping. So the last one I'm going to be bringing now is the shortest one, which is 1. Then the third one is going to be like this, and the last one is going to be like this, and they will also overlap by the 1 inch allowance that I left. So this is the pattern that we're going to be having. Then I'm going to be securing it on the upper part like this before I now take it to my main fabric, my sleeve, and add it to the sleeve. Okay, so remember I just want to show us we are adding it on the wrist of our sleeve. So here now I'm going to be adding it to the wrist of my sleeve. Then I'll bring you back to show us what this is looking like. So now I'm gonna take the pleats, and I use a contrasting color of choice so you can see the pleats now. So the next thing is to arrange them. So the first one first, I'm going to be placing it, and then I'll place this medium on the largest like this. Then they are going to be overlapping on each other, and then the smallest part, which is the 3, I'm going to be placing them on each other like this also, and then I'll take it to the same machine now. They sewn together now, as you can see. So to add this to our basic sleeve, I already shaped the sleeve, so this is what the basic sleeve is looking like. So remember we added overlap allowance to everything. So on the last one now, I'm just going to be placing it on each other by the overlap allowance also like this, and then I'm going to close it, and then I'll sew this to the hem of my sleeve, and then I'll take it to the mannequin so that we can see what we have. So this is the basic part of the sleeve, and this is the leaf pattern. So I use the pinkish jersey, so that is why the hemline is like that. So if you are using another type of fabric, you may need to line it so that you have something neat. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.